Namaskar, hello and a very warm welcome to CIET NCERT's live phone-in interactive program. My name is Tanvi Khurana and in this 8th class of English session, we are here with the topic, the tsunami. And this is the second part of the same topic. If you have not seen the first part, I would request you to please go to our YouTube channel, that is NCERT Official, and watch the first part where our expert explained this entire chapter and the term tsunami and certain incidents, of course, of tsunami. So we have an expert in our studio as well, just the way we had in our last session. So let me please introduce to all of you, she is Miss Surbhi Chawla. A very warm welcome to you, ma'am. Namaskar.
Thank you. Namaskar.
Ma'am is a lecturer from Great Mission Teachers Training Institute, New Delhi. And if you are watching us on PMeVIDYA channel number 8 at this moment, you can raise your questions, call us on our number which is 8800440559. And if you want to email us your queries, the email ID specifically for class 8th would be dth.class8@ciet.nic.in. So before getting into the details of the part 2, what do we have in store in this particular session? Let's just rewind, recap and understand what did we discuss in the part 1 of this chapter called Tsunami. Ma'am.
Okay. Thank you very much. And good afternoon, children. Hope you're having a very good time. It's a very pleasant weather now. And Diwali is coming up, so I hope you're enjoying and preparing well for the festivities. So like ma'am shared, in part 1, we covered the chapter, the tsunami, and I covered certain incidents and certain courageous stories of people who had gone through tsunami. And today we will do a quick review of the chapter and then we will move on to the exercises and the questions and answers. Okay, so let's do a quick review. So what is a tsunami? A tsunami is a very large and powerful wave caused by earthquakes under the sea. So as you can see on the screen, there's an image of a very large wave, and many such large waves, they constitute a tsunami, and they can cause massive destruction of life and of property. So one such tsunami, it occurred on 26th of December 2004. It hit Thailand and parts of India such as the Andaman and Nicobar Islands and the Tamil Nadu coast. As you can see in the next slide, so we are going to cover a few stories, a few courageous stories of survival. And all of these stories are from Andaman and Nicobar Islands. So we start with the story of Ignisius. Ignisius was a manager of a cooperative society in Kachal. Kachal is a small island in the Andaman and Nicobar group of islands. Now, the earthquake hit at 6 AM and it was initially felt by Ignisius's wife. And as soon as they felt the earthquake, Ignisius got up, he put the TV on the ground and the whole family rushed out. 2 children, the wife and the wife's father and also the brother, they lost their lives in tsunami. However, Ignisius and 3 of his children survived. The next story, in the next slide, the next story is of Sandeep, a policeman. So Sanjeev was a policeman again in the island of Kachal in the Nicobar group of islands. He managed to save himself, his wife and his baby daughter. However, when they were running away, Sanjeev heard cries of help. And who was crying for help? The wife of John, who was the guest house cook. Now, as soon as Sanjeev heard these cries, he jumped into the water to rescue the wife of John, the guest house cook. However, he could not save her, and as a result, both Sanjeev and John's wife were swept away by the waves. The next story, let's move on to the next slide. So the next story is also from the Andaman and Nicobar group of islands. The story belongs from this group of islands. It is a story of 13-year-old Meghna, a small girl who was swept away along with her parents and 77 other people. She spent 2 days floating and she was just holding on to a wooden door. So just a piece of wooden door was there which was also floating in the ocean, and Meghna was holding on to it. 11 times she saw relief helicopters overhead. However, they did not see her. They could not hear her or they could not see her. Swept to a shore by a wave, she was found walking on the seashore in a daze. So luckily, she survived because of the help of this log of wood. Now, the next story. Again, this story is from the Andaman group of islands. Let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so the next story belongs to, pertains to Almas. Almas Javed, again a young student, 10 years old, used to live in Port Blair. Port Blair is the capital of the Andaman and Nicobar group of islands. Almas's father had a petrol pump. Can we move to the previous slide, please? The first slide. Yes, thank you. So the family had gone there to celebrate Christmas, and the earthquake struck in the morning when everyone was asleep. Her father saw the sea recede and sensed danger. They rushed to a safer place. However, Almas's grandfather was hit on the head. Almas's father tried to save him, but unfortunately, both the father and the grandfather were swept away. Next slide, please. Okay, so now we have a story from Thailand. Till now, we were going through stories from Andaman and Nicobar group of islands in India. Now there's one very important story of courage from Thailand. Thailand is a country in Southeast Asia, and it is close to Andaman Sea and the Gulf of Thailand. It borders Myanmar to the northwest, Laos to the northeast, Cambodia to the southeast, and Malaysia to the south. So let's move on to the story. Next slide, please. So this story is of a young girl named Tilly Smith. Tilly Smith and her parents were on vacation in Thailand from Britain. So they were living in a resort in Thailand when the earthquake hit. Tilly was 10 years old schoolgirl and her parents are Penny and Colin Smith. On 26th of December 2004, a deadly tsunami triggered by massive earthquake of northern Sumatra hit Thailand and Andaman and Nicobar group of islands. According to Penny Smith, the mother of Tilly Smith, the water was swelling and kept coming in. The beach was getting smaller and smaller. I didn't know what was happening. Next slide, please. So everyone was very scared, including Tilly and her parents. Now, fortunately, Tilly Smith remembered a geography lesson at school in England just 2 weeks before she flew to Thailand with her family. She sensed danger when she saw the sea slowly rise and start to foam, bubble and form whirlpools. Her teacher had told them that tsunami can be caused by earthquakes, volcanoes and landslides. So as soon as Tilly remembered this from her geography lesson, she warned everyone that there is danger here. As a result, everyone went to the top floor of the resort, and as a result, everyone was saved. Next slide, please. But you know, those who couldn't go to the top floor, They lost their lives. Those who did not pay any heed to the warning or did not understand Tilly's message, they lost their lives. However, hundreds of them were survived because of Tilly's presence of mind and because of the lesson she learnt in her school at England. Okay children, so these were the stories. Now there's one very interesting fact about animals and natural disasters. So let me ask you, did animals sense that a tsunami was coming? Now some stories suggest that they actually did. Before the giant waves slammed into the coast in India and Sri Lanka, wild and domestic animals seemed to know what was about to happen and they fled to safety. Next slide please. Now some may even say that animals have a sixth sense, and according to eyewitness accounts, elephants screamed and ran for higher ground, dogs refused to go outdoors, flamingos abandoned their low-lying breeding areas, and zoo animals rushed into their shelters and could not be enticed to come back out. Next slide please. So many people attribute this to the animal's sixth sense. Some people feel that animals have sixth sense which causes them to know when a danger lies ahead, and as a result they are able to save themselves from this danger. Next slide please. Now this incident is from, next slide please. Now this incident is from Yala National Park in Sri Lanka. The Yala National Park in Sri Lanka is home to a variety of animals including elephants, leopards and 130 species of birds. 60 visitors were washed away from the beach inside the park, but no animal carcasses were found except for 2 water buffaloes. So this again shows the animal's ability to sense danger and flee to safety. Next slide please. So children, now we are going on to the exercises from this chapter. So working with the text, and then we will work with the language bit from this chapter. So first of all, when he felt the earthquake, do you think Ignisius immediately worried about a tsunami? And if so, give reasons for your answer. So I'll give you a hint. So Ignisius, in the first story as we learnt, he immediately with his family rushed out. He just put the TV on the ground and he rushed out of the home to safety. So I feel that maybe he did not have time to worry about the tsunami. However, he did have a presence of mind where he could put the TV on the ground so as it does not crash and fall on himself and his family, and he immediately rushed out to safety. Which sentence in the text tells you that Ignisius's family did not have any time to discuss and plan their course of action after the tsunami struck? So children, again if you can recall the sentence in the text which says that the family rushed out as soon as they felt the earthquake tremors indicates that they did not have time to discuss anything when the tsunami struck. So they had to act immediately, and they immediately rushed out and tried to save themselves. Next slide please. Let's move on to the next question. Now in the second story, Sanjeev is a policeman who saves the guest house cook's wife. So how would you describe Sanjeev? There are a few words given: cheerful, ambitious, brash, brave, careless, heroic, selfless, heartless and humorous. So children, what words do you think would characterize Sanjeev? Ma'am, do you think you can answer this question?
I can give it a try.
Yes, please.
I think Sanjeev was brave.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, and heroic.
Yes.
And cheerful.
Yes,
But not in that situation.
Yes, not in that situation. So, brave is correct, heroic is correct, and also selfless, because he did not care about himself, and he cared about John's wife, and without worrying about himself, his life, or any of his family members, he jumped into the water and tried to save John's wife. So, he was very brave in his act, very heroic, and also selfless. Okay, so next slide please. Next question. Next slide. Okay, so there are 3 sentences given, and the same set of words, we have to see which words fit in which sentence. So number 1 is, I don't know if Sanjeev was cheerful, dash or dash. So ma'am, could you please help me out? Which words could you fill in the first sentence?
I don't know if Sanjeev was cheerful.
Yes.
Humorous.
Yes.
Or ambitious.
Very good. So from the text, we are not able to make out if Sanjeev was cheerful, humorous or ambitious, because these qualities are not mentioned in the text. Second sentence, I think he was very brave. So this we have already done, brave, heroic and selfless.
Right.
And the last sentence, Sanjeev was not heartless and, ma'am, can you please help me out?
Brash.
Yes, very good.
Or
one more.
Careless.
Very good. So Sanjeev was not heartless, brash or careless, because he cared about other people. He was not brash, and also he was not heartless. If he didn't have a big heart, he would not have jumped and risked his own life to save John's wife. Okay, next question please, next slide. How are Meghna and Almas' stories similar? So children, if you may recall, Meghna and Almas both survived using a log of wood, which they used to float in the water. If they hadn't used that log of wood, they would not have survived. So this is something which is common between Meghna's and Almas' story.
Okay.
Yes.
So ma'am, we've got a lot of questions related to this story, the tsunami, and because our viewers, they have read and heard this entire chapter from you and even from their respective books. So shall we just give these questions as homework to these students?
Yes, why not? Yes, definitely. There should be something that students should work at home also, and maybe they can write in the comment section after they watch the video, after the video is finished, and they can let us know what they think about these questions and what are their answers.
Absolutely. So these are the questions which you just saw on your screens. Please note it down and answer these questions and send it on our email ID, which is dth.class8@ciet.nic.in. Thank you so much, ma'am, for being with us and for letting our students know what this tsunami is all about, and should we be scared, should we be brave enough to help others and be selfless, just like the incidents we heard. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you to all our viewers for watching this super interesting session, and I really hope that you are also going to be brave and selfless one day, and if there is somebody who needs you more than yourself, then you would go and help those people. Thank you so much, and please stay here, don't go anywhere. We are coming back in a short space, and that will be a session of social science. The topic for discussion would be व्यापार से साम्राज्य तक भाग 1। यहीं पर रहेगा और थोड़ी देर में हाजिर होते हैं। तब तक के लिए आप अपना ध्यान रखिए। नमस्कार।